Fight Commentary Breakdowns here. And we have here very requested Wing Chun artist. This is Adam Chan. So, Adam, welcome.
Hey, guys. Thank you for having me. How are you doing, Jerry?
I am good. How are you doing?
Doing good. It's raining crazy in Vancouver, but other than that, it's all right.
I see. We're super overcast today, but we really rain in LA. So I guess I got nothing to complain about.
LA. Oh, right on.
Yeah. So, Adam, let's just go ahead and get started. When did you get into Wing Chun?
1986. Yeah. Started Wing Chun in 1986 in Moncton, New Brunswick. It's the other side of Canada, the cold part of Canada. Yeah.
Wow.
Long time ago.
What was the first experience like? Did you kind of pass by a Wing Chun school, or was it something else?
No, it was like a country town. My dad owned a Chinese restaurant, and we used to live upstairs in a restaurant, and I was 9 years old. And I overheard my dad and the cook talking about fighting. I was supposed to be in bed. I was 9, but I was, eavesdropping. And then my dad said Hong Gar is better than Wing Chun. And the chef's like, no, Wing Chun's better than Hong Gar. I have no idea what these words mean, right? And then the Wing Chun guy says, no, Wing Chun's designed to fight someone bigger than you, blah, blah, blah. So when I heard that, it freaked me out because I was 9. And then that made an impression on me. A couple of years later, I saw a flyer that says Wing Chun Kung Fu, which freaked me out because I live in a country town. There's nothing there but trees, right? So it was weird that there was Wing Chun instructors there. So I begged my dad to take me there, and then I joined a kid class. I was 10 or 11. And so I had my little Kung Fu uniform on, and then I started doing Wing Chun, right? Yeah.
I see. Yeah. So quite early along in your journey, you started doing Wing Chun. And what was the experience like when you started doing Wing Chun? Did you feel very at ease? Did you feel it was hard? Tell me about the initial experience.
There was only 4 kids there. Everyone else was an adult. So they didn't pay much attention to me. But my brother was an athlete. And so he learned really, really fast. But I was the slowest learner. I had a learning problem when I was younger. So by the time he was in the 3rd form, I was still stuck in the 1st level, halfway through. And I still can't remember what I'm doing. And my sifu used to get pretty frustrated teaching me. No offense to him. He was a great teacher. I was just a slow learner. So for me, martial art was a very difficult thing. But I really, really like martial arts. So I stuck with it.
I see. And was your training at the time mostly form-based? Was there sparring? Tell me about that aspect of it.
Oh, in a kid class? No, you learn forms, and then they try to get, because I was 10, right? They were trying to get you to learn how to punch, and then try to learn how to kick, how to move your feet. And if you manage to get that down, then they'll start showing you like back and forth countering exercises. If you can do that, then maybe they'll teach you some single hand sticking. Then after that, double hand sticking. Then after that, sparring, right? But for me, because I was so young, they were really concentrating on just coordination, just me not punching my own fists and tripping over my own foot kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It's funny you mentioned punching your own fist, right? People who have experienced that know it is easy, man. It is very easy to like actually hit yourself when you're retracting this punch and the other punch comes. So, yeah, I know exactly that feeling.
Yeah, especially when you're a slow kid. That happens quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, as you got into your teenage years, you stuck with the Wing Chun, I assume. Did you do any other stuff, or was your journey always just sticking with Wing Chun?
Not really. When I was 13, I had a friend. He was very, very, very serious about boxing, Jason Spurl. He ended up in the Army. So if for some reason Jason's watching this, I haven't seen you for 40 years, miss you, man. And he taught me how to box and did that. Then my other friend, Jason Rogers, who was a provincial Kyokushinkai kickboxing champion, he taught me some Kyokushinkai, and so I was able to learn how to use my feet, and I was able to learn how to box a bit. I'm not a good boxer or a good kicker or good at Wing Chun for that matter, but I ended up cross-training, and then that was really fun in my teenage years, and that's what I did up to I was 16. Yeah.
Wow.
So, yeah.
And when did you start kind of teaching?
Teaching?
Mm-hmm.
I started teaching, actually I started assisting my teacher by the time I was about 14, whenever I go by there. And but I didn't actually officially start teaching till I was about 23. Yeah, but it wasn't by choice. Like I just had to. Like I didn't want to. Yeah, so I started teaching when I was 23.
Makes sense. A lot of schools, if they have a lot of students and they need someone to help out, they'll just ask whichever student that has experience to be like, hey, can you help me do this? Can you help me do that?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yep.
So, okay. I think a lot of viewers want to also have you weigh in on some of the recent developments in the Wing Chun world, because a lot of people have been seeing Shu Xiaodong kind of take on Wing Chun and stuff like that, all that stuff online, Wing Chun Masters. So,
I don't
when
really
did you
keep
become
up with the
aware of
internet,
all of
though.
that?
You would have to educate me, sir, because I don't read YouTube comments and I don't really go online much.
Okay.
So what's going on?
Starting in 2018, there have been lots and lots of videos, mostly coming out of China, of people doing Wing Chun. Now, it's debatable whether they are masters or not, but some of them call themselves masters, and they step into the ring, they step into the cage, and they get their for lack of a better word, their butts handed to them. And so that set off a lot of debate between sort of the traditional martial arts versus the mixed martial arts and all of that. And I think a lot of people, that's how they first recommended I contact you, because we love Adam Chan, we love his videos. He seems to be a more pragmatic or practical person when it comes to Wing Chun, no mysticism. Please bring him on the channel. So that's how audiences started contacting me to reach out to you.
Well, I appreciate that. Really appreciate that, Jerry. I'm not a great fighter, and I really, I'm flattered with a lot of compliments, but I don't consider myself a great fighter. But my opinion is, tell me if I'm being too abstract. But in my opinion, martial art, it doesn't matter what style, Tai Chi, Bagua, Xing Yi, White Crane, Silat, Filipino martial art, African martial art, it doesn't matter. To me, a martial art is like a tree, like a raw material. But a tree is not a table, it's not a chair. You need specialized carpentry skill to turn a tree into a table or a chair. So when people say, does Wing Chun work? I'm like, no, Wing Chun doesn't work. Karate doesn't work. Taekwondo doesn't work. BJJ doesn't work. Nothing works. It's a tree. What do you want to do with the tree? Do you want a table? Do you want a chair? So what do you want to do with Wing Chun, though? Some people do Wing Chun for health, right? Some people do Wing Chun because they saw Yip Man movies. Some people do Wing Chun because, I want to win in MMA. Some people do Wing Chun because I'm only interested in self-defense. So when people say, does Wing Chun work, my question is, work for what? What are we talking about? Do you want a table or do you want a chair? If you say I want to do Wing Chun for health, then I'm like, well, Wing Chun doesn't work that well for health. If you want good muscular system, weight training is better than Wing Chun. If you want a good central nervous system, meditation is better than Wing Chun. If you want a good skeleton system, iron shirt training and very high intensity weight training is better than Wing Chun. So you would have to add that to your Wing Chun, right? If you want to say, no, I'm only interested in Wing Chun for tournaments, I want to win fights, then my question is, what kind of tournament? Are you entering Kyokushinkai where you're not even allowed to punch the head? Are we talking about you want to enter a Muay Thai tournament? Do you want to enter a Taekwondo tournament? Oh, you want to do MMA? Well, then you better get your ground game on. You better learn to spar with these MMA guys. You better modify what you do. In fact, that's how MMA was invented. BJJ came along and thought they can beat everyone, and they did. And then eventually they made the mistake of showing the whole world what they did, and the whole family took turn losing. And then they go, wait a minute, maybe we can add striking into it. And then maybe we can add Muay Thai into it. So they took 3 trees, they put it together and made a new table called MMA. That's a smart thing to do. So if you want Wing Chun to work in MMA, well, then you have to modify your Wing Chun to work in MMA. But let's pretend you're an MMA guy. You said, you know what? I'm retired. My joints hurt. I'm not interested in tournament anymore. I want to learn how to defend my family. Well, then you have to take that tree, MMA, and turn it into a table. There was a kickboxing champion in LA. He got into a road rage incident. He made the mistake of jumping around, doing his stuff, his sport fighting. The guy pulled out a gun and shot him, and he died, right? There was another 2 MMA guy who was scumbags, and they were rubbing their crotch on the girl, and they lined up in a convenience store. 6 guys came up. One had a 2x4. They put the guy in a coma, right? So just because you do MMA, it doesn't mean it works in multiple opponents. It doesn't mean it works against a weapon, right? So if an MMA guy moved to the Philippines, where, for example, it's a culture where it's a blade culture, all of a sudden MMA doesn't work. But does that mean MMA is no good? No, it means it needs to be modified. So same way, say, okay, Wing Chun. If you want to say, does Wing Chun work? Then the answer is, what do you want to do it for? You have to modify. If you say, no, I only want to do Wing Chun for self-defense, then my question is, what are you talking about? Home evasion, carjacking, a rape situation, a bulldog rush prison-style knifing that happens a lot in Vancouver? Or we're talking about a multiple opponent situation? If you pick one of those categories, you would have to heavily modify your Wing Chun to make it work for the scenario I just talked about. So when people argue about what style works or don't work, to me, that's kind of dumb. It's like a car doesn't work in water and a boat doesn't work on land. You have to modify your martial art. A martial art is just a tree. It's not a table. It's not a chair. You have to modify it. So that's the main reason why I don't read martial art comments or go to martial art forums, or I rarely grant interviews, because people's IQ can't seem to understand that a tree is not a table. No martial art work and no martial art don't work. You got to modify it. And people don't want to do that, right? So I'll stop here because I can go. I don't want to interrupt you. Well, go ahead, sir.
Yeah, that was great. That's great what you just said. And I think the next follow-up question for you would be, so if a student came up to you, how would you kind of teach the student nowadays, knowing there's MMA, knowing there's crazy street situations and everything, like you said, like the bulldog stab thing in Vancouver? How do you teach your students now?
I don't do that, though, because I got my martial art hat on. Because when people come to me, I have one class that I teach publicly, and that's the only time I teach publicly, and it's on Sunday. It's currently shut down because of COVID-19. But when I did run that class for 3 years, for some odd reason, and I wish it was weird because it wasn't by design, but most of my students were martial art teachers. I have one student that runs a Krav Maga school, another one runs a Taekwondo school and also teaches kickboxing. One guy taught ninjutsu and taijutsu. Another one was an MMA guy for 3 years. Another guy was a karate black belt. It seems to me when they come to me, they seem to try to use Wing Chun to enhance what they already did. They never say, Adam, I want to learn Wing Chun for MMA. Adam, I want to learn Wing Chun for self-defense. Adam, I want to learn Wing Chun to better my health. They never said that to me. They were very honest. They're like, oh, Adam, I teach Krav Maga and I'm interested in Wing Chun. Oh, Adam, I teach kickboxing and I'm interested in Wing Chun. Adam, I've been doing MMA for 3 years and I'm interested in Wing Chun. Adam, I'm a Taekwondo guy, blah, blah, blah. So it seems like for some reason I attract teachers and they're interested in enhancing what they do through Wing Chun. And I'm very honest with them. I say, look, I'm giving you a tree. I'm not teaching you how to make a table or a chair. I'm just giving you a raw material. You do whatever you want with it. And I think, I'm guessing here, it must have worked for them because they never quit my classes, right? But I don't teach self-defense publicly. And I separate self-defense or fighting from martial arts. They're not even remotely the same thing. A tree's not a table. I do teach self-defense privately in my home, but I don't open that to the public. And the people that are interested in my self-defense classes, they're not martial art people. They don't go online and argue about the best style. They don't care about lineages. They're not drama queens, right? Like, they're interested in protecting themselves and their family, because the majority of them, before they met me, one of my students got jumped by 7 guys and almost died. The other student got jumped by 3 guys and almost died. One guy had a knife pull on him in a car. I mean, these people are past victims of real life situation. They're not worried about artificial, fake, who's got a bigger dick kind of thing, like on the internet. These are people with real problems. They're grown-ups, right? So those are a different clientele than martial art people, and that's why I have to separate it. They're not worried about sparring matches. They're worrying about trying to cut their throat, right? It's a different, you can't even compare So it took me 20 years to figure out people have different interests, and you have to separate it. And that's very important to me because I don't think of myself as a good teacher. And by trying to better my separation and communication skill, it has helped people a lot more.
Wow. That is so interesting. I'm so glad you shared this. It reminds me, I haven't uploaded this talk yet, but I had a conversation with a jiu-jitsu black belt, and he kind of said something similar. It's like people who've gotten into real situations, they'll let their own PTSD dictate how they train afterwards, right? They're going to think of things very differently. My friend who was a jiu-jitsu black belt, he got jumped in his car too. he had his seatbelt on, so he couldn't do any jiu-jitsu. It was preventing him. So that PTSD moment of getting punched a few times before he could manage to get his seatbelt off, or I think the guy stopped punching him, and that's when he got his seatbelt off or something. But anyways, that dictated a self-defense type of thinking. So now, before he unlocks his door, he always takes off his seatbelt first. Most people don't think like that because most people aren't thinking in a self-defense way. So what I really like learning from you, Adam, is that sometimes it is important to separate the self-defense and the martial art. Because let's say a jiu-jitsu guy, he's probably not going to be thinking about how do I do jiu-jitsu in my car. He probably will think about how do I win a competition.
Look at that. What's his name? I have a lot of respect for him. Frank Shamrock. Yeah, he's amazing. And but he was at Home Depot and a crackhead came at him with a switchblade.
Oof.
He ran for the hills. And this is not even a trained blade guy. It wasn't a professional. It wasn't even a half decent knife guy. It was just a crackhead untrained with a blade. And Frank Shamrock ran for the hills. Now, does that mean MMA is no good? Of course not. It just means it wasn't the right context for it to be applied. And luckily he recognized that or he'd be dead. Yeah. Same thing as with Ken. A lot of guys think a fight is a chi-sao match or something. Right? Or a lot of guys think a real fight is like a sparring match or something, right? So you're right that the PTSD will dictate the way you train, right? And I think people that studying Wing Chun might, or arguing if Wing Chun work or not, might not recognize that. And I'm glad they don't recognize that because that means we live in a peaceful society. If people recognize that, it means, well, think of it from a primate behavior point of view. Tell me if I'm boring the shit out of you because
I love this conversation, by the way. I love it. So keep going, please.
Okay. If you look at a pack of wolves, right, we have two types of conflict. The first one is they fight their own same species. And why do wolves do that? Mainly for social status. Whoever wins gets the food and gets laid, right? There's a lot of growling. There's a lot of warning. There's a lot of fighting. And as soon as one wolf shows the belly, the other one leaves them alone. If death happens, it's a pure accident. That's a fair fight. That's a duel. But what happens when a wolf fights a different species? They only do it for food. Is there any growling or warning or fighting? No. It's pure stealth. And if killing happens, it's by design. If death doesn't happen, it's an accident. That's primate behavior or animal behavior, right? Apes are the same, right? Humans are the same. When we're not serious, when we're fighting for social status, when we want to show everyone we're the toughest guy in the room, when we want people to cheer our name, what do? We posture, we act tough, we put a guard up, we warn each other, we have a fist fight. And if death happens, it's an accident. It wasn't intentional. But what happens when humans are serious? Like a criminal, like the military. They don't warn you. And if death doesn't happen, it's an accident. If a military comes at you, they're not going to send you a promo. They're not going to warn you. They're just going to kill your ass, right? So that's how military operations happen. As Sun Tzu said, let your plans be as dark as night. Strike without warning like a thunderbolt. Or as Jesse Glover said, he says, hey, you got to be a dumbass to show everybody what you're doing over and over and over again and not expect them to come up with an effective counter. If you've ever been around military people or street people, they don't show you what they do. What would you show your hand in a game of poker if it's life or death, right? So that's one line of thinking. Do I agree with it? I'm not sure, Jerry, because they spend their life hiding everything they do, right? If you look at gangs that design their own fighting system, like the African gang knife system, they don't show you anything. They may show you a couple of things, but because it's not a martial arts system. It's just a proven bag of tricks they use to kill people. What would they show you, right? So they hide everything, and that's military thinking, gangster thinking. Do I agree with that? I'm not sure. But then there's the opposite spectrum of thinking, which is if you have a credit card, I'll show you everything. I'll broadcast everything. Well, that's like prostitution. So do I agree with that? I'm also not sure. So basically there's two types of conflict and two types of thinking. You have the type where you're hunting and killing, and you have the type where you're fighting for status. People get that confused quite a bit. Self-defense is really based on fighting a different species. MMA, tournament, chi-sao, freestyle rolling, martial artsy people, that's really about a wolf fighting the same species for social status. They're not the same motive. And because they're not the same motive, they deal with different variables. What that means is they have different tactics. Is there crossover, Jerry? Of course there's crossover. Cardio, speed, accuracy, power, coordination, punching, kicking, grappling, all that crosses over between the two. But that's where the similarity stops. Everything else is different. And people don't know that. And I'm very glad they don't know that. It means we live in a peaceful country. Most people's vision of a fight is what they see in the movies, John Wick or Equalizer or whatever, or what they see in MMA. That's not how the street works. And I'm glad they don't know that. So when I teach Wing Chun and people ask me, does it work? I'm like, no, it doesn't work. I got my martial art hat on. I'm not showing you self-defense. I'm giving you a treat. I'm not giving you a table or a chair. It takes specialized skill to modify something and turn it into something else, right?
Yeah.
And if people don't understand primate behavior and don't understand there's two types of conflict, they're really arguing. It's like, oh, MMA is better. Oh, this is better. They're arguing about really dumb shit. They're just saying, oh, a car's better than a boat or a boat's better than a car. Depends if it's on land or if it's in water. Are we talking about hunting or are we talking about dueling? Not the same, Jerry, right? Not the same at all.
Exactly.
You're right-handed and you weigh about 60 pounds?
Yeah, I'm 150.
And you're leaning over. Yeah, you're 150 pounds. You're right-handed. You got your weight. That's on your right hip right now. If I have a problem with you right now and I feel like my family's in danger, I'm going to flank you on your left side right now. Now, is that a fair fight? No. But can you stop it if I already read your weight and I know where your weapons are? That's different too. So that's different between hunting and fighting. But if it's fighting, it's different. I'm going to go, Jerry, I meet you tomorrow at 3 o'clock. Make sure we're the same weight class. Make sure there's rules. Make sure we don't have to deal with multiple opponents. Make sure we don't have to deal with weapons. Make sure we don't have to deal with ambush. And make sure we start from a safe distance. All this stuff is designed for you to have a fair chance against me and me to have a fair chance against you. That's fighting. That's us seeing who's got a bigger dick. I'm not interested in that. And most people I know are not interested in that, right? We just want to make sure people leave us alone and leave their loved ones alone. That's a different mindset, right? Do I agree with that? I'm not sure. I'm very glad there's sport fighting. You know why? Because sport fighting is really about this social status need about I'm tougher than you. I'm glad it exists. If it didn't exist, these same kids would be picking fights in bars. I'm glad they have a place where they can go to act tough and pick fights and challenge each other and see who's tougher and showboat and shit talk. And I'm glad they have a place for that. So unlike traditional martial art, I don't put down sports. I think they're necessary. There needs to be a place where people can release that. But don't confuse that with realistic criminal assaults. So when people say the word, does it work in a real fight? I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Now we're talking about real criminal assault. So wait a minute, let's draw a line here and so there's three things to me. There's MMA, so that's a table. And then there's self-defense, that's a chair. And then there's a tree, martial art, which is, it works, it doesn't work, it doesn't matter. What are you doing it for? I teach martial art. My stuff doesn't work. I'm not trying to give you self-defense or sport. I just teach martial art. Privately, I do something different. I do self-defense. But my career, martial art. I stay out of this who's tougher and who's stuff. I'm not a tough guy. I'm an old guy, and I'm not a tough guy, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So,
well, you look like you're in your 30s, man, so I wouldn't call you old. But
I'm almost 50, man.
Wow.
And people say, yeah, that's my opinion, right? But I don't know which side to take, and that's why I choose the middle. Look, I'm just a martial art guy. I'm a dumb martial art guy. I got my martial art hat on. If you want something else, then,
Yeah. I really like what you said, and I've always, from day one on my channel, called myself a hobbyist. I'm not even an amateur. I'm just a hobbyist. I used to say amateur, but then I realized people think amateur. They think like a guy who gets into amateur matches, which I'm not, right? So I can't even use amateur anymore because amateur has a connotation now. So I'm just like, I'm a hobbyist. I'm just a dude who likes martial arts. I have a martial arts hat, but of course I have a lot of MMA friends and stuff like that. And I do have some self-defense friends, guys who practice with shivs and guns and stuff like that. So it's interesting talking to the two worlds. And then, there are the people who do MMA who've been assaulted, And then there's some people who do MMA who have never been assaulted. So there's like, it's interesting to kind of hear the differences in how they perceive street situations and stuff like that.
What I don't like is sometimes I hear people in the self-defense world put down MMA as though that would never work on the street. I'm like, are you kidding me? I'll put my money on an MMA guy any day than most self-defense guys, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't like this idea where people put things in that's not good, right? I have a student that's an MMA guy, right? He came to me because he wanted to learn how to protect himself. And then he asked me what the limitation of MMA is. I was like, I'm not going to talk shit about MMA. What I'm going to do is throw you into a scenario and you can answer the question for yourself. So I start introducing things, simple things, like the guy that's attacking you can pull a blade whenever he wants. Within 45 minutes, and multiple opponents and ambush and all that stuff, within 45 minutes, you already go, okay, I know what I need to fix in my game to make it work. I know what the limitation of what I learned before is. Simple fix, right? So why can't people just fix things like that? Words are not needed. Just throw something. Like, if you wonder if a car works all the time, throw it in the water. You find out right away, right? So is tigers always the baddest animal on the planet? Throw them in the water. Is sharks always the toughest thing on the planet? Throw them on land. You find out really quick, right? And when people do that, I find it very interesting because it shows me that they have a humble, open mind, right? And that's a beautiful thing to watch. A simple thing like putting up your hands. Everyone talks about the arm guard position, right? Okay, you're going to duel. You're going to put up your hands, right? You try that on the street. You step back 5 feet and then put up your hand. The guy will put a blade right away. I seen that on Davy and Seymour down in my neighborhood, right? This dumbass was arguing with another guy. He could have won easily, but instead he chose to step back, bounce around, and put up his hand. The other guy, who obviously was out of shape, he drew right away. I had goosebumps when I saw that because I was like, oh, shit. And luckily, thank the Lord, he drew a baton and not a gun or a knife. I was like, okay, all right, no one's going to die today. Good. And he just ran after the guy. And the guy that was bouncing around was in very good shape. So he outran the fat guy. So that's a simple thing, right? Like, why would you teach an on-guard position? Put up your hands. Why would you do that? Unless you're in a sport match. Are you crazy? But if you practice it too much, what happens? It gets inside your nervous system. And what happens if something is in your nervous system? You would do it before you know you did it.
Yeah.
You got to get your ass shot or stabbed. So a simple thing like bouncing around and putting up your hands is suicide, right? But you need to do it if you're in a sporting environment. If you get your hands down, you're going to get knocked out. So you see how something that's good for one thing is bad for another, right? And yeah, but when I teach online or when I teach publicly, I don't teach any of that. I teach Wing Chun, and I'm happy to teach Wing Chun. It's like, hey, here's Wing Chun, and people like that. But I've never claimed that I'm teaching self-defense or anything like that, right?
Yeah.
And I want you to know that because I don't read the comments, but the person that run my website does. And he's telling me that people are, okay, Adam Chan's going to get interviewed. He's going to talk about, Wing Chun for real fights. I'm like, well, I'm sorry to disappoint you, but no. Wing Chun's a tree. Fighting is a chair. You have to separate the two. And I wrote a whole book about that, Anyways.
Yeah, please, after this, send me your book. Send a link on Amazon or something so I can share it with my audience.
Thank you. So now that we got that separation of different stuff out of the way, let's talk about Wing Chun then. Yeah.
So I think one of my questions that I want to ask you is, whenever it doesn't always happen, but it seems to happen a lot with Wing Chun people. There's a big kind of emphasis on what is this lineage, what is that lineage, etc. So what is your opinion on that? Because, I feature this Wing Chun fighter named Silala a lot on my channel. And I had a lot of people be like, Jerry, what is his lineage? I feel like he's not a real Wing Chun guy. And I'm like, really? Come on. So, do you ever get people, the first thing they ask you is, what's your lineage? Are you Ibon? Are you Yuan-Chi-San, etc.? Tell me about that.
Yeah, people ask me what lineage I am all the time, and I just truthfully tell them where I learned my Wing Chun from, right? Yeah, but lineage does matters a lot to a lot of people because it's like a brand name, right? You got a Louis Vuitton. Oh, they must be a good bag, you know? So there's a lot of branding going on. But I personally don't really put much stock on lineage. It's good to have a good lineage, yeah, but it doesn't guarantee anything. You still got to have a good work ethic, and you still got to train hard, ask good questions, study, research, and on it goes. But yeah, a good lineage does help, but I wouldn't approach it almost to the point of a religious thing. Like I don't, everything in balance, right? Everything in moderation. So yeah, lineage is important, but don't eat it up too much. So that's my opinion on it. But yeah, but when it comes to lineage, Grandmaster Yip Man's version of Wing Chun, I would say my favorite lineage is Wong Shun Lung's. He was a very effective. Unfortunately, a lot of Wing Chun is taught in a way that people cannot really explain when, why, where. Like they don't understand what they're, and I think that is crucial. I don't care what lineage you're from. You should know exactly why you're doing something. Why would it not work? When do you do it? When do you not do it? Where do you apply it? Field test it a little bit, and you should be able to explain it simply. These things are very important to me, right?
I see.
Yeah.
And in your teaching, do you encourage your students to kind of spar with it or test it? What is your kind of stance on all of that?
No, it's like exactly what I said before. I teach Wing Chun, and I only give you a tree. I don't get them to fight. I don't get them to spar, sport fighting or self-defense. I'm like, nope, I don't do any of that. I'm just a dumb martial art guy. I got my martial art hat on. But if you want to do self-defense, that's at my house. Complete different program, complete different criteria. I don't even personally practice Wing Chun. I haven't since 1991, I haven't done Wing Chun. That's not what I do, but that's what I teach because I like teaching martial arts. So why not teach martial art? But that's not the table and chair I've built. I teach the tree. So yeah, if people are interested in self-defense, I'm like, come to my house. But if you're interested in Wing Chun, I teach Wing Chun. So I have two things going on, right? If you like sport fighting, then I'll call up all my sport fighting friends and go, hey, I got a student for you. And some of my sport fighting friends learn self-defense from me. So, but even self-defense though, Jerry, you gotta be very careful about that because there's a huge difference between combatives and self-defense. Self-defense, they're actually the complete opposite, right? Because self-defense means, by definition, using the minimum amount of force to end a conflict and only escalate the force if you absolutely need to. For example, you might police policy. You might use empty hands if you need to. Use a mace, use a taser. If you absolutely need to, get out your baton. If that doesn't work, then you pull out your sidearm, right? Combative is the complete opposite. You go to maximum force. If you only have to, you go lower. Like you start with your machine gun, like in the army. If you lose it, damn it, then you use your sidearm. If you lose that, oh no, now I got to use my knife. If you lose that, then you go to empty hands. So they're complete opposite. Combatives and self-defense are complete opposite. And most people that claim they teach combative is actually teaching self-defense. So there's a lot of confusion going on. And most people that say they're teaching self-defense is actually teaching martial art. So sport fighting, combative, and self-defense is like a table, a chair, and a stool, and martial art is like the tree. So unless people have that clarity, they're going to waste 10 years or whatever when they're training, right? Yeah. If they think learning Wing Chun is going to make them badass at self-defense or badass at combatives or badass at sport fighting, that's like saying if I get a really nice tree, automatically it's going to be a nice house, a nice table, or a nice chair. No, you need specialized carpentry skill to turn that damn tree into one of the thing, right? So when people say, hey, you do Wing Chun, do you spar? Or can you fight with it? Or is it self-defense? Or do you for sport fighting? I'm like, I think there's a little confusion there. That's why I separate the program. Here's my martial artsy class. Here's my sport fighting friends I can send you to. Here's my combative program. Here's my self-defense program. And it's my job to make sure people don't get confused because that's how people can die, literally, right? And I wish people that's on the internet can also stop the confusion. I mean, as a teacher, I have to stop the confusion so people don't die. But as an internet guy, and I'm not, but if I was a big internet dude, then I think they have a job to stop the confusion because there's just too much shit talking. And they're arguing over dumb shit like a car's good on water or something. Again, it's context-based, right? The confusion is sending the wrong message to young people and it's confusing them. And it's going to make them waste a lot of time, lots of training time, right? Like if you do MMA, great for you, but if you confuse that with self-defense, that's dumb. If you do self-defense, you confuse that with combative, that's dumb. And it goes on and on and on and on and on. And I wish the confusion can be cleared up. Then we can have a meaningful conversation about how to improve. And bottom line, that's what matters. As much as people argue about what's better, it's almost like people crying or starting a riot over when their hockey team loses or something. You're displacing your identity on somebody else, like your church or your religion. That's a lot of low self-esteem underneath all that. I mean, really, bottom line, what really matters at the end of the day is what can you do? Because everybody just wants to be appreciated. Everybody at the end of the night just want to look in the mirror and go, hey, I'm good enough. Yeah. That's really what people want. Yeah. So if you take the confusion away, they can finally feel good enough because they're now making progress. But how the hell are you supposed to make progress if you're confused?
Yeah.
It's impossible, man.
Yeah. So it sounds like what you mentioned, it's something very thought-provoking, which is no matter if you're an MMA coach, self-defense coach, combatives coach, or whatever, the first 20 minutes of the first class that a student takes should be like a semantics class. Really define the terms, right? That's what you do in every debate, in every court case and everything. You define the terms first, right? And it's like there's no define the terms that's been going on for a while in the martial arts and the combat sports and everything. Everything kind of got, one is the money, two is the branding, and three is just general kind of ignorance, right?
I'm the only Wing Chun guy on the planet that will say Wing Chun is not good for fighting, not good for self-defense, not good for combat. It's not good for anything because it's a tree, not a table, not a chair. Most people will not say that because it's bad for the marketing, right? Yeah. I can't drive a Mercedes-Benz teaching Wing Chun telling people it's not good for fighting.
Yeah, it's so interesting.
But the reverse is true, Jerry. You can't build a table or a chair without a tree. Substance and function, yin and yang.
Right? Yeah, exactly. And I think if I were to bring Silala on the talk, he would agree with you completely on that too. He would describe Wing Chun as like a tree also. And then you sort of shape it into whatever. So I think even this is talking to viewers because I know you don't follow all that controversy, but there was a one-armed boxer who beat a Wing Chun master, so to speak. And the one-armed boxer said he was doing Wing Chun, even though he was a one-armed boxer. He's like, my foundation, my tree was Wing Chun. And then I picked up boxing and applied the Wing Chun into boxing. And of course, the Wing Chun people are all mad at him. They're like, oh, you just failed at Wing Chun.
Why would you, right? I have a boxing friend, right? He wanted to learn how to defend himself, right? Well, he had to turn the tree of boxing into a table. So the first thing I taught him is open up your hands because you're going to break your fist in the real fight. I taught him what to do against a knife, how to manage multiple opponents. There was a lot of modification. You have to know what to do against grappling. You have to know what to do against guys bigger than you. So modification is needed. The worst thing people can do is think that a style is complete in adapting to every single scenario on the planet. Nobody can handle every single scenario. It's not possible because martial art came from social logical element, not the other way around. For some reason, people like to skip over this one. What you do completely, if I got on a plane and go to a different country tomorrow, my art won't work. I will have to change it. Right?
Yeah.
So like MMA, like when you go to let's stop using MMA as an example. I don't know. Wing Chun. Okay. You go to Wing Chun and then you drop off the plane into blade culture. Wow. I mean, it's pretty obvious, right? Or even if you do blade stuff down here in Canada, a lot of people that do blade stuff down here likes to duel. They like to knife spar. That's not how stabbings happen though, right?
Yeah.
It's either a concealed walk-up in Canada or it's an open charge, bulldog rush, prison style, or it's an ambush from behind. In all three criminal cases I just said, none of them are dueling. None of them are sparring. So you can spar for 20 years, it's not going to help you, right? So you would have to take that stuff you do, modify it to handle those three criminal cases, right? So, yeah.
Yeah. I have a funny story that's almost like the opposite. So a guy was trained in combatives, right? He was like working for some kind of agency or whatever. So he's training combatives. So he's taught like all that stuff, how to come up from behind, take out someone very quickly. So he's retired and he's at a bar and some big biker dude is harassing a girl. So he confronts the biker dude. So he can't do the combative stuff. So now they're like stepping back, doing this posturing, and he gets knocked out. Right? So that's like an opposite example. Like he thought because he had all like that, like, tactical stuff. Now I'm able to throw down like this, but no, like you said, it's a different table. It's a different stool.
You said he got in front of the guy and put up his hands. I disagree that's tactical at all. That's the dumbest shit you can do in a street fight. Like I said, he's lucky when he put his hands up, the guy didn't step back and draw a blade, right? Mm-hmm. So a lot of these guys that claim to do combatives is breaking some of the most basic combative rules, right? I don't know. I'm just a dumb martial art guy. Mm-hmm. Martial art hat back on, right? But yeah. But I'm very happy.
Conversation, man. And I've been having the honest conversations, like very similar topics with jiu-jitsu people, with Tai Chi people, with everyone, because I think part of it, unfortunately, is, I don't know how Canada is, but America, I think, people are starting to see that the veil of like safe always is not always there. So I think a lot of people are thinking more about self-defense and stuff like that now, because they realize, unfortunately, the cops don't come to your door in 2 minutes. So like, you really need to like think about situations like that. Whereas before, like you said, many societies, especially in the West, have been very safe. So people haven't really thought about it. But so it's like, it's interesting that the conversations I've been having with various martial artists, whether in combat sports or just martial arts or whatever, they've been thinking a lot about this too, the differences between, like you said, the semantics and the sociological implications, right? The sociology creates what the martial arts or what the fighting is. It's so interesting.
It is, yeah. Canada's great though. Like, we have very little violent crime compared to other countries, right? And the less people know the difference and the less people are interested in self-defense, the happier I am. It means that we have low crime. So that was one of the major reasons why I teach Wing Chun. I love teaching martial art, but I don't like teaching self-defense publicly, is because I don't want to get people all paranoid, right? If you want to do self-defense, that's great, but I don't want to shove it in people's faces like tactical combatives, and I start wearing cut-off gloves and skeleton T-shirts and talking about I was a bouncer and I got into 10 million and 56 fights and 500 knife fights and blah, blah, blah. I don't want to do that. I mean, it's a good way to make money, but it's almost as sleazy as those YouTube ads where, look at my Lamborghini, look at my mansion. You want to make as much money as me? Take my online courses. That's what that reminds me of, right? And yeah, I don't want to do that. I think martial art is fine in Canada. Get martial art hat on, people get more confident, they lose some weight, they learn a few techniques, they argue about lineages, they do a little chi sound. They argue about techniques, and they argue about if MMA is better, or and then my MMA students come and they want to spar and they want to play these games. I'm like, hey, that means we live in a good country. Great. Yeah. That's beautiful, right? Yeah. So I don't want people shouldn't shove that in people's faces. Yeah. But yeah. I don't know. I'm only speaking as a Canadian living in Vancouver. I'm spoiled, right?
Yeah, I love Vancouver. I've been to Vancouver twice. I love Vancouver a lot.
Well, aside from the constant rain, if you can handle that, you're good. Yeah.
I think there were some viewers in the comment section asking, they wanted me to pass this question to you. When you teach Wing Chun, are there ground techniques?
No. When I teach Wing Chun, I try to get my hat on, martial art hat on, and I'm teaching Wing Chun, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. In fact, sometimes by mistake, I start throwing movements out. That's not Wing Chun. And I try to be very clear about that, right? But when I teach Wing Chun, I try to do a good job, if possible. I try to just stick with Wing Chun, right? Yeah. And when I teach self-defense, I am 100% in that, and I'm not. Like I said, the separation to me, I try my best to keep it as clean as possible. I'm trying to do a good job, but yeah. Sometimes
and I think this question goes back to the semantics again, because I've seen it argued a lot in the comment section. There are Wing Chun people like, oh yeah, there's lots of ground techniques in Wing Chun, and then there's people who do Wing Chun like, there's no ground techniques in Wing Chun. So I think your answer is just showing there's a lot about semantics and all that.
It's just crazy, right? If you want to do ground fighting, go look up a guy that's good at ground fighting. Don't think styles. Think attributes. If I want to know how to hit as hard as I can, I'm not going to think about style. Well, why would I do that? I go look at the hardest hitter on the planet. Well, who was it? George Foreman. Okay, look at how George Foreman punches, right? It's not because it's boxing. It's got nothing to do with the style. If it was the style, every boxer would be hitting as hard as him. It's because if it's the way he hits is different, right? If I want to look at I don't know, if I want to enhance my sticking ability, who is the best sticker? Well, best is bad to say, I guess, but one of the best guys was Jesse Glover, right? You look at him sticking. You want to look at speed. You look at some of the crazy Olympic fencers are like, whoa, right? You want to look at so it goes on and on, right? But you don't look at styles. Why would you? Every style's the same, like Jesse said. Every style's the same. You have 80% of people that's pretty average, and you get about 10% that's holy shit, you're good. So it's not about. So my question is, how do you become the 10%? Not what style it is, because every style has it. Every style's got people talking a lot, shit talking each other a lot, and then every style's got that 10% that can really rock when they get on the floor. So aside from work ethic, genetics, respect, open-mindedness, a very, very hard perseverance and discipline, what else are the ingredients that make you the 10%? That is what I'm interested in. Not like, oh, Wing Chun ground fighting? You want to learn ground fighting, you go look at the best ground guy on the planet, not style. The guy who wins all the time, right? Because if you look at a style, people teach a style. But when they fight, they usually use 5% of it. So it's not the style. They throw away 95% of it. So I want to know what that guy is doing. What's that 5%? So you find a top 10% guy, and then you ask him what he's doing with that 5%. And then you ask the second question, can I do it? If the answer is no, look at the next guy. If the answer is yes, then the next question is, how can I modify it to fit my body type and my personality? Right? If you can't answer any of those questions, then how does style going to help you? Oh, Wing Chun has ground fighting techniques. Great, but can you find me a guy that's a top 10% guy doing those techniques, and he's willing to teach you, and he's willing to modify it to fit you? If the answer is no to that, then it wouldn't matter if Wing Chun has ground fighting techniques or not. So people ask funny questions, right?
Yeah.
I think more important than what to learn is they have to learn how to learn.
Yes.
I was a very, right? I am and I was an extremely uncoordinated, slow learner. So I had to learn how to navigate between all this information, because everyone when I was growing up, every single person was telling me they're the best. What am I going to believe? Right? So all my karate friends when I was growing up was telling me Wing Chun sucks. All my Wing Chun friends were telling me karate sucks and Wing Chun's better. Then my kickboxing friends, and I hang out with all of them. I love training. I love cross training. So I was training with all of them. And no matter which group I was hanging out with, they were always shit talking the other group. But meanwhile, I'm stealing ideas from all of them. I'm having a blast, right? So, yeah, it surprised me in 2000, like in 2020, we still have that religious mentality. Yeah. It really freaks me out. Like MMA is better, no Wing Chun's better. No. We still have that belief in 2020? I thought we were in a scientific era by now.
Yeah. I agree, man. So, and that's why it's so annoying sometimes on my channel. I'll be honest. Like, I show someone that does Wing Chun well. Oh, you're a Wing Chun Chinese martial arts apologist. I show MMA doing well. Oh, you just hate Kung Fu. It's like, dude, come on, man. Like, haven't you followed my channel? And I think, Adam, you're the same. It's like, haven't you like followed us enough to know that that's not our point?
That's not the point. It's not the point. I mean, but then again, you got to look at it. It's the internet. So a lot of people are not training. They just want to be entertained. Maybe they had a hard day at work. Yeah. They're taking a shit and they just want to watch a clip, right? So, hey, fair enough, right? Yeah. But I mean, for the sincere student, then it's a different conversation for the sincere student. When people come and learn from me, I don't just take them. I interview them. I go, hey, what is your goal? Yeah. Give me a 5-year plan. What is your goal? If they go, Adam, you know what, man? I saw Yip Man twice. And I just want to learn Wing Chun. I don't care if it works or not. I got students like that. I'm like, all right, let's do Wing Chun. Then I got students that come to me and they go, oh, I teach Krav Maga or I teach karate or whatever. And I'm interested in Wing Chun enhancing my game. I'm like, all right, fine. Then I got other people that come to me and they go, you know what? I don't even care. I just want to be able to enter the next tournament, blah, blah, blah. I said, hold on a second, let me call my friends, you know? And then you got people that want to learn how to defend themselves. So, you know, I think it's important to talk to people and communicate people. It's not about you, how tough you are, and if your style's the best. It's about your student, right? It's about that guy. He doesn't feel good about himself. He wants to succeed. So it's your job to go, hey, what do you want? Not me going, I'm Adam Chan, my Wing Chun's the best, blah, blah, blah. Or I'm Adam Chan, I'm an MMA guy, blah. That doesn't help anyone. It's more like, okay, if I'm teaching Bob, I'll go, hey, Bob, when you look in the mirror, man, you feel like shit. What do you want out of this? You get through your day. It's, oh, Adam, I got jumped before and blah, blah, blah. Or Adam, no, man, I just want to win a trophy and impress the chicks. All right, what do you want, man? Let's get you there. And I think that's what's important in every single style doing this. Yeah, that's the reason why I don't go online. I'm sick of it, man. Yeah. I was online in the 90s, and I was like, you know what? I don't want to do it anymore. The only time I'm online is I post videos. Like, I film videos, I give it to my editor, and I go, I'm done. I don't even watch my videos half the time, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think what I'm really learning from you, I want to emphasize to viewers, is it's not enough just to think about semantics as people who want to practice martial arts. It's a constant self-updating thing. You have to ask yourself repeatedly, what do I want to get out of this? So when you decide to go on your martial arts journey, ask that question, and it'll definitely change as you get more exposed, of course. So don't be afraid to re-examine what you want to get out of it, maybe 2 weeks down the line, 2 months down the line, 2 years down the line, 20 years down the line.
That is excellent, Jerry. That's one of the best advice I ever heard. In fact, that's what successful people teach outside of martial art in your life. You should have a 5-year plan, 3-year plan. Most people don't sit there like once a week or once a month minimum. You should sit down and write down what you want out of life. Yeah. Or you're going to end up where you don't want to be, right? Martial art is no different. It's part of life. Like you said it perfectly. I couldn't have said it better. What do you want out of this stuff, right? If you work 40 hours a week, you got a real job. You got a kid at home. You got a wife. You might be able to squeeze in what? If you're lucky, 3 hours of a week of training. What can you really do in 3 hours, okay? What do you want out of this? So you might sit there with a beer and argue about MMA in the octagon's better than this guy or that guy. Well, you're not that guy. You're the fat guy on the couch with a beer with a wife and kids. What do you want to do, right? And then, or like you watch Hitman and you think Wing Chun's the best. Well, you're not done a year. This is not a movie. This is real life. What do you want out of it? So I think what's important, maybe I'm too traditional, but I still believe training should make people feel better. Call me a dinosaur, call me outdated. I don't think martial arts should be about a pissing contest to see who's better. I think martial arts should be making the person feeling better at the end of the day. And the only way we can make that happen is for that person to be honest about what he wants and get the actual help he needs. Like I had one student, he was in love with boxing, right? And Wing Chun punching. He liked them both. But he ended up getting a security job in a hospital. If he hit a patient, he'll be fired on the spot, right? And he come to me and goes, Adam, blah, blah, blah. I said, hey, man, you should go do some judo and do some jiu-jitsu. You're not allowed to hit people. I hate jiu-jitsu, blah, blah, blah. He goes on and on about how he hates it. Well, it's not up to you. Do you want to lose your job? Do you want to lose your license? So that's an adjustment of what I mean. It's not about style. It's about your lifestyle. It doesn't matter if the guy on TV is good. It doesn't matter if the guy in MMA is good. It doesn't matter. You're not him. You're you. What is your gender? What country do you live in? What's your job? How much training time do you have per week? What's your personal goal? These things should dictate how you train. Not what people say online, not who won the last UFC match, not what happens in the last criminal assault you saw in a newspaper. Who cares? You are what's important, not me, right? If I'm teaching you, Jerry, you know who's important? Jerry. What did Jerry want? Not what I want, not how good Adam Chan is. That doesn't matter. And I'm sick of that shit in martial arts.
Yeah.
Because that's not helping people. And did you know most people that learn martial arts, despite how tough they talk, if you get them to open up, most people don't feel that good about themselves, man. That's why they want to train. So stop arguing about who's better. Help that kid, for God's sake. That guy's coming to you with his hard-earned cash because he wants to feel better.
Yeah.
So why don't you deliver? Instead of getting him to join your cult and religion and argue who's better. But I know I'm old-fashioned, but that's the way I think. I still think training should be good for the individual.
Yeah,
and
I think there's even like the most hardcore gyms, I'm not even going to say MMA, the most hardcore gyms that train at whatever, that spar the hardest, they're even starting to like change their paradigm because they're realizing, oh yeah, I thought the whole point was exactly like you said, Adam, to feel better about yourself. You don't want to walk out of there and like forget the next 2 days because your brain and neck are damaged, But like that was a trend for a while. I've talked to other people who they're like, yeah, if I knew what I knew now, I wouldn't have sparred as hard. I wouldn't have done this as hard. I wouldn't have trained this as hard,
It's not their focus. They're only discovering that recently in football, in MMA and Thai boxing. They used to kill each other in sparring, right?
Yeah.
And then now they go very light contact as they figure out it's giving them heavy concussions.
Yeah.
You go, like the Thais are very smart. They go really hard on pad association drills, but they go very light when they spar. They save their body for a fight, right?
Yeah.
So, but your average guy doesn't know that.
Yeah.
Just judging by what people say, oh, do you spar hard? I'm like, dude, just go talk to a professional fighter and they'll tell you how they train. Like, this is not the 80s. You don't beat the shit out of each other and then like, what's the point, right? So yeah, man, I don't really agree with that. Like when people do scenario training, even scenario training, and if you think about it, all non-cooperative training are scenario training, including sparring. Sparring is just a scenario of a duel. It's one scenario. And in all scenario training that's non-cooperative, it should be done with safety measures.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like sometimes you see guys train, they're limping out of the gym afterwards, right? And what if they get, like, they train so hard to protect themselves, but they're limping out of the gym. When someone jumps them, they're dead.
Yeah.
Because they don't have anything left in the tank, right? So you should always have at least 30% left when you leave the gym.
Yeah.
At least.
Yeah.
Right? And that's,
agree. Yeah, I agree with that. And I was going to add one more thing, which is part of my training, I do some tricking. If I were to like listen to other people, oh, tricking's useless. I just want to do it. I've always wanted to trick, right? That's applying, Adam, exactly the advice you're giving. It's like, think about what you want to get out of it, man. Don't think about what this guy says or that guy says or what Jerry says or what Adam says. Think about like what you want to get out of it. I want to be able to fly through the sky sometimes. So I'm going to want to learn how to do a handstand. Am I going to do a handstand when someone attacks me? No. But I want to be able to do a handstand. I want to be able to stand on one arm. I want to be able to do capoeira moves and stuff like that. Why? Because it looks cool, and I care about that.
And assuming that you're a decent guy, and I think you are, and if you're a decent guy living in a decent country, your chances of getting into a life and death struggle, I think statistically a real fight was like, what, 1 or 1.2% in a lifetime? So people start fussing about fighting, like, don't get paranoid. Unless you go around picking fights all the time. If you mind your own business and you live in a pretty good civilized country, your chances of getting into a real heavy, bad situation, less than 1%. Maybe 1%. Okay. So that being the case, shouldn't you do something that makes you feel good, right? Oh, don't do MMA. You'll never make it to UFC anyways. Who cares? The kid's having fun. Let him do his MMA. Yeah. What is your problem? Oh, man, he's doing knife fighting. What a psycho. Hey, the guy likes playing with knives. Let him.
Yeah.
Like, he wants to look like Ip Man and do Wing Chun. It doesn't work in a fight. Who cares? He wants to look like Ip Man. Let him look like Ip Man. Yeah. What got to do with you? Now, it's different if someone is like very honest though. Like, hey, I want this shit to work in a real fight. Okay, that's a different conversation. But if someone just wants to do what they want to do, leave them alone. Like, So I just want, especially nowadays, man, with this COVID stuff. Ooh, I don't know about your country, man, but over here, suicide's going up, anxiety's going up, depression's going up, divorce is going up, alcoholism, overdose. Man, just let people do what they want to do and have some fun, right? And yeah, man. I believe that. But back to Wing Chun, because we're supposed to talk about Wing Chun. I teach Wing Chun. Wing Chun's a beautiful art. And I think it gives you good ideas. It's a set of ideas in my mind. It's a tree. And as long as people know that, I think we're good. Yeah. I mean, I might get in trouble for today's conversation. A lot of my friends teach Wing Chun, and they're like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, well, that's my opinion. I could be wrong. It's not the first time I've been wrong, but that's what I think. Yeah.
I think the one thing to always be prepared for, and this is advice for anyone that thinks about creating videos, is that someone's going to misinterpret what you say and then try to blame you for it, right? So always, that's just what it is. Like, someone's going to try to do a handstand and accidentally land wrong, but Jerry, you said do a handstand. Well, why?
Hey, that's why you go with Joe Rogan, man. He's my hero. Joe Rogan's never read comments. I was like, all right, never read comments. Okay, there we go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Him and Bill Burr, like, don't read comments.
Yeah.
I love Bill Burr.
I love Bill Burr too.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, guys, this was Adam Chan. I think this was a good interview. We talked about Wing Chun, even though it seemed like we didn't talk about Wing Chun, but we talked about the meat of it.
Okay.
I really think this was
I promise you guys next time I'll talk, if I ever, talk to you again, next time I'll stick to Wing Chun. I just wanted to get the categories clear.
Yeah.
Once that's clear, we can have a conversation without getting confused.
Absolutely.
So I promise next time about Wing Chun.
Yeah.
Sorry, my apologies.
If this whole lockdown situation ever is over, I think I want to come to Vancouver again and visit you, Adam. I think it would be so cool to sit down.
Do you like dim sum? We can go for dim sum.
I would 100%, man. I think there's a lot of good things to come. So viewers, man, this will continue. Adam will definitely be back. Adam, this was so awesome, man. You're such a cool guy.
Oh, thanks, man. I thank you, Jerry. It was really good talking to you. Yeah.
Definitely. So, guys, fight commentary chats, fight commentary breakdowns. I might, here's one thing, Adam. I'll end with this. I might end up changing the name of my channel. Fight commentary. I mean, it's a cool, memorable name, but I just feel like the word fight, man. I don't know. This is something I got to think about too. And I maybe check with me in a year. Maybe this channel will have a different name or something like that.
Nice.
Yeah.
I like your channel. I went to visit it the other day. Someone recommended it, and I'm going, wait a minute, I've heard that before. I think I'm doing an interview with him, and then I'm going to check it out. That's good. Good work, man. Good work.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. So, guys, go welcome. Follow Adam Chan's channel. He's got a YouTube. He's got a website, everything. So go follow him.
All right. Thank you.